Hello everyone, welcome back. We haven't done this for a little while. PMQs everyone, I know, much excitement. Not. And today we're going to be covering whatever it is that's affected the cost of living because I know that's damn well what it's going to be about. It has nothing to do with the fact I've already watched it. I swear down people, I swear down. So yes, hello everyone, hope you're all well today. Looking forward to this to an extent because I didn't get the last one. And I think there was another recess that I didn't notice. So, it'd be nice to get back into the swing of things with a full parliament of morons. Yes. So, anyway, let us go here. There it is. That, for those who don't know, is Sir Lindsay Hoyle. He is the Speaker of the House. He has a really, northern voice. You can tell because when you give him a complete sentence to read, he struggles. Yes.
Available to watch on the Parliament Live TV. We now start.
Also, if the news company tried to claim this, saying it's their intellectual property, I swear I'm gonna go knucking futs. All right.
With questions, Prime Minister Steve McKay.
So say questions, Prime Minister, not questions to the Prime Minister, because he can't say to in there. Just t.
Number one, sir.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I know that members across the House will want to join me in offering our best wishes to Rangers for this evening's match in Seville. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had...
Rangers are in the Scottish Premier League, one of the top two teams, only two really, and they're facing Seville in the Europa Cup final, which is a big deal. You don't see Scotland competing for, silverware in Europe. I think Steven Gerrard manages them, Stevie G, so it'd be good for them. There's that weird noise again. Huh. I haven't changed my settings. I was streaming on Twitch a little while ago. I'm very sorry, Michael, that that's the case. I have not... The only other noise I have in my room right now is a fan. If I just go and turn it off, we'll find out if that's the issue. If that's resolved your issue, then I will turn it back on knowing that that was the problem. If it has not gone at all, I'm afraid I cannot resolve the issue because I don't know what the issue is. I don't know where... my settings are no different, okay? Do forgive me, though, for any issues caused. So.
Meetings with the ministerial colleagues and others, and in addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Steve McKay.
How exciting. Right, before he does that, I'm going to turn this up. Volume is not as high as I'd like it to be. Hello, Michael, by the way. Hello, Dusk Plains. Hello, Leona. Hello, Gemma. Hello, Chaos. Hope you're all well today.
The latest State of Ageing report reveals, Mr. Speaker, that last year in this country, 9,000 people over the age of 60 died because their homes were too cold. Will the Prime Minister give a guarantee that figure will be lower and not higher this time next year?
No, he can't, because it's definitely going to be higher. Michael, I'm very sorry then that the problem is persisting. I was streaming not long ago on Twitch, and I didn't have these complaints. I don't understand what's causing the issue when I start another stream. I'm really sorry about that. Hello, Spudgun. Hello, Swan732. Hope you're all well today. But yeah, to answer the question, he can't because the cost of living has gone through the roof. We know it here because our cost of living has gone up by about £400 a month, which when you're not you're not exactly flush with coin in the first place, is a huge amount. I think cost of living, that is an increase of about 25 to 30% for us, and that's not good. Hello, that's Crime Guy. Spot the missing Tory. Oh, yes, because one of them's been arrested for alleged sexual assault. Yes, we'll wait on that front. They're not allowed to name them in the Commons anyway, but yes, spot them yourselves. But yes, cost of living has gone up quite a bit. It pushes me in favour of solar energy in my own, like my log cabin, because realistically, I can't, in good conscience, abuse the electricity from the house as well. So we'll see what happens when my sister's one's built.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think everybody has every sympathy with people who are facing difficulties with the cost of heating, and that is...
I doubt it. Although I would say right now you don't need heating, but it is a worry for the winter. We can't exactly store the heat we're going to get right now, right?
why the government has stepped up with an extra £9.1 billion in...
That doesn't go as far as he thinks it does. Oh, but it's billions. There are nearly 70 million people here. Do the math. It doesn't go very far, you fucking idiot.
In addition to what we're doing with the cold weather payments and the warm homes allowance, Mr. Speaker, and we will continue to
That stuff doesn't apply to the vast majority of people, though.
support people throughout the aftershocks of COVID, just as we did throughout the pandemic.
Yeah, but this is not related to the aftershock of COVID. This is energy companies taking absolute advantage of the people. They admitted they made more profit during lockdown and they didn't know what to do with it. Knowing that they can maintain that by hello Jake Thompson, hope you're well, by simply keeping their rates where they are or raising them even further, means that they know they can take advantage. And this is where the issue is with the windfall tax idea that many put forward. If they introduce a windfall tax, it's not going to work because the energy companies are going to put the prices up even further to cause even more issues. And no one wants this. We just want them reduced. How about that? How about they stop protecting this ridiculous monopolised profit margin?
I think Goldman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Figures released from the Department of Education show that last
planted
year,
question.
once again,
Okay.
Lib Dem-run Sutton Council became the highest rejecter of children applying for education, health and care assessments in the country. Nearly half of children were rejected compared to the national average of just 23%. Can the Prime Minister outline how the SEND review will help children and their families of SEN get access to the education that they deserve?
This is one of those things where delegation of those kind of powers is really important. I would love to know the full context of why this particular council, Sutton that is, do this so much. I would assume it has something to do with money, but I could be wrong.
Prime Minister.
Yes, indeed. I thank him very much for his campaign, and he is completely right, Mr. Speaker. That's why we have an SEND review, and we will ensure that SEND children and young people can get access to the right support at the right place and the right time across the country.
We now come to the Leader of the Opposition, Keir Starmer.
And actually, Ola, you've actually made the point. Just because you get it doesn't mean it actually amounts to anything. £10 for a week now, based on the current cost of living? No. You know what £10 does? If you put a tenner in your car, do you know what that does? Right? You put £10 of petrol in at pump 1, you go pay your £10, you get back in your car, you then drive all the way to pump 3 to put another tenner in to take you to pump 5. Because that's how far it goes.
Mr. Speaker, I too send my best wishes to Rangers. It's quite an extraordinary story, actually, over the last few years for that football club.
Yeah, because Steven Gerrard has turned it round. I would argue, as far as football players have gone from player to manager, he is a success story. And he should be, because he was a great player for Liverpool. And a one-team guy, always there for him.
Mr. Speaker, a
Hello, Sunless Wing Zero.
Huge oil and tax profits would raise billions of pounds, cutting energy bills across the country.
No, it wouldn't, because then they'll just jack up their prices to make sure that they maintain their profit margin. The Conservatives have cocked this one right up. Now the energy companies know they can keep their prices at a level where the profits are even bigger. They'll keep them there. Why? Because the Conservatives will claim to not want to tax people while simultaneously taxing the poorest, the hardest, knowing it won't actually go as far. Maybe he is overrated, but he's doing well for Rangers. And so they'll just absolutely fold. They won't. Although, it is already believed the Conservatives are going to U-turn on this windfall tax anyway because they don't have a solution.
The Chancellor rightly says there are two camps on this. You're either for it or you're against it. But which camp does the Chancellor put himself in? He says, neither. Well, I'm in favour of it. The question for the Prime Minister is he for it? Is he against it? Or is he sitting on the fence like his Chancellor?
He's sitting on the fence until he has no other option, because he genuinely believes that he can find a way out of this that doesn't involve taxing. The problem is, the companies in question have too much power over him. Straight up. He can't say they don't, because they do. If they didn't have the power over him, he would have already found a way to, let's say, get them to reduce their costs of what they're charging people while maintaining an insanely high profit. By the way, I'm all for capitalism, by the way. I'm not in favour of abusing the people. In this country, the energy companies right now have far too much power. We know they do because the government opposite there are doing nothing to stop this.
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I think I just remind the House that the right honourable gentleman struggled to define what a woman was.
That's not relevant. That's not ponage.
If he couldn't make up his mind on that point, Mr. Speaker, heaven help us. Look, this government is not in principle in favour of higher taxation. Of course not. But what we...
That's a lie. They managed to raise taxes for lowest income families by using it in another area, i.e. national insurance contributions. So they did raise taxes. They really did. They had to anyway.
want to do...
By the way, that's how you take the ladder up from underneath people, to make sure that everyone else can't get up to your level.
We don't want to put... Of course they want. They love it. They love it, Mr. Speaker. They love putting up taxes. All this was... Dog spot, Labour meow, Labour puts up taxes, catch me out, Labour put up taxes. What we want to do is take a sensible approach governed by the impact on investment and jobs.
Okay. Inflation is at its all-time highest, Mr. Johnson. So putting your faith in jobs is one thing, but how about, the inflation issue that's now been created that is going to make our money even less valuable? You fucking idiot. Why does he remind you of Eagle from Dracula? Spudgun, lower the fucking standing charge. You use, I'll kill it, nice. Electricity in a year, can't lower my usage any further. It's not much, really, is it? Actually, increase only kicks in after 40k a year. It still kicks in, though, doesn't it? But also, there was an argument that it does impact lower incomes anyway. But you may well be right on that front. I do remember that being hotly debated before and after the Queen's speech, or should we just call it the Prince Charles speech?
Mr. Speaker. And that is the test of a strong economy. And it's by having a strong economy...
No, it's an aspect of it, yes. Problem you've got is saying you've got all these people in work doesn't change the fact that the energy companies are maintaining a level and increasing to a point where those who are working themselves cannot afford to get to work or keep their homes warm. The point of work is so that you can then live your life. That's the point. You provide a service, you get paid for it, you take your money and you live your life. Tell me, where are you living your life if you're spending all your money paying someone else to not give you heating? And exactly, the Tories have been in charge for 12 years. That's 2 years more than Labour. Well, no, it's not. No, it's not there yet, is it? It's 3 more years, isn't it? Sorry, I forgot Tony Blair won a third term, didn't he? Point is, you've had all those years, and you constantly brag about, whenever Labour leave office, there are less people in work. That's why they were voted out. Why are the Conservatives usually voted out? Oh, that's right, because they usually betray the people.
That will be able to look after people as we have done during COVID and as we will do in the aftershocks of COVID. And I'm proud to say, Mr. Speaker, that this week it was revealed that unemployment has come down to the lowest level since 1974. When I was 10 years old, Mr. Speaker. I don't know how old he was, but I was 10 years old.
And you still look like a fucking mop. Look, it doesn't matter how low unemployment is. because it's everyone who is working that's getting hit hard anyway. It really isn't a flex. Come on, Boris.
Yes, Starmer.
Mr. Speaker, hang on. Last week he said we'll have a look at it. Yesterday he voted against it. Anyone picking up the papers today would think they're for it, and now he says he's against it again.
So that's actually a point. Yes, they did vote against the idea of a windfall tax. Today, there are newspapers that did outright say it seems likely that Rishi Sunak is going to U-turn on a windfall tax. The thing is, even if the Conservatives implemented such a thing, they wouldn't use it to lower energy prices at all. And based on the current rate of increase on energy prices in the first place, and then match it with inflation, because that's going to get even worse, it's not going to make a blind bit of difference, really. The only realistic way of going forward is to get the energy find a way to control them better, I guess, or legislate. They can't abuse the people the way they do. But if the Conservatives are known for anything, it's the fact they do not lean on private-owned companies or privatisation of any way to regulate it. They don't do it with rent, which is why private rent is horrendous. So more people working for less. Yeah, exactly. Fantastic job, right? So you get it. And yes, please, everyone, could you do me a solid, and I'll say it this way.
Smash the like button now.
Thank you.
Clear as mud. To be fair, it's not like the rest of his cabinet know what they think either. The same day the Chancellor said it was something he was looking at, the Justice Secretary said it would be disastrous. The Business Secretary called it a bad idea, but also said he'd consider a Spanish-style windfall tax. 1 minute they're ruling it in, the next they're ruling it out.
A Spanish-style windfall tax.
Hokey and just back Labour's plan for a windfall tax to cut household bills.
Mr. Speaker, the Labour's plans are...
The issue here really is that many of these energy companies don't pay vast amounts of tax in the first place. So are they asking much anyway? Even in council rent, it's £100 a week for a two-bedroom flat. See, that's a bit much, I think. That's not as bad as... I know for a fact there's a house not far from me. It's 1,500. I'm sorry, but it's a shit house. It really is. It's not a prime location either. It's just because people can do that. Hello, Lisa. Hope you're well.
Always and everywhere to raise taxes on business, and that's what they did. I remember them campaign. I remember him campaigning in 2019, Mr. Speaker, on the biggest taxes for business that this country has ever seen.
Yeah, Labour always do that, and that's why many businesses don't back the Labour Party, and they certainly don't back its current iteration, because current Labour isn't really a fan of, well, business.
That's their instinct. Now look. This country,
workhouses, Michael.
Faces,
they want to bring about workhouses.
Cost of energy, driven partly by COVID and partly by Putin's war of choice in Ukraine. And we always knew that there would be a short-term cost in weaning ourselves off hydrocarbons and in sanctioning the Russian economy. Everybody in this House voted for those sanctions. We knew that it would be tough. But I just want to tell the right honourable gentleman that giving in, not sticking the course, would ultimately be the far greater economic risk. Yes, of course, Mr. Speaker, we will look at measures. We will look at all the measures that we need to take, Mr. Speaker, to get people through to the other side.
So, windfall tax?
But, Mr. Speaker, the only reason we can do that is because we took the tough decisions that were necessary during the pandemic, which would not have been possible if we'd listened to him.
Here's Starbucks.
He just doesn't get it, does he?
Nope.
He doesn't actually understand what working families are going through in this country, struggling about how they're going to pay their bills. And whilst he dithers, British households are slapped with an extra £53 million on their energy bills every single day. Meanwhile, every single day, North Sea oil and gas giants rake in £32 million in unexpected profits. Doesn't he see that every single day he delays his inevitable U-turn, is going to do it?
Oh yeah, there's no way he won't, because there's no other option.
People struggle when they don't need to.
So that's a big difference. He's opposition, so he can just say, but if I was in charge, I'd just do this. I don't think he would, to be honest, but you know what? Let him have his moment. He does still have a point, though. Boris is going to have to U-turn. He will have to do a windfall tax. It's not a good idea, I don't agree with it at all. But he realistically doesn't have another option.
Mr. Speaker, he says that this government has no sympathy for people who are struggling and working. Let me tell you, it is precisely well. Let me tell you what we're already doing. We're already spending £22 billion. We're already helping people with the cost of living in any way that we can, Mr. Speaker. But the reason we can,
when Corbyn was in charge, the cost of living was a bit of an issue back then, right? It was the argument of absolute and relative poverty. Now, I always felt that Corbyn had the wrong position because it was based on was it relative? It was like relative poverty of where that bar actually sits, where he thinks it is. Absolute identified where it really was. And so there was always a conflict in that regard. But now there's a big problem. It's massive because state welfare isn't going to cover this, and it's certainly not going to cover it enough to be able to make it meaningful. It just means now in many homes, especially during the summer, they're not going to have lights on. No. They're not going to have lights on. In the autumn and winter, they're going to be more sparingly than they ever had before. I just know. It's... Oh, YouTube's now mentioned it. Nice, that dicks for that. Yeah, no, it's not... This is even worse than it was then. Because the prices have gone up, and they've gone up to such a degree that it's going to really hurt. It's going to hurt. And yes, I get the whole sacrifice thing. I really get it. But you do have options, and the only one that anyone's considered saying vocally and exploring is a windfall tax. I don't agree with it, but if it's the only option available, then you have to consider it, and you clearly aren't considering it because it comes from Labour.
do that is because we took the tough decisions to get this country through COVID, to make sure that we came out of lockdown in the way that was necessary, and to have a strong economy with robust.
As he set up robust, right? Count
growth, Mr.
I want you to count how many times he said robust. He said it twice now.
Speaker, and we will continue to take. And he talks about cutting taxes. In July, we will have the biggest tax cut for 10 years, £330 cuts for 30 on average for 30 million people who are paying national insurance contributions. And
so, Cyrene, that's actually what I think. If a windfall tax happens, the tax burden will be passed on to the customers because the energy companies aren't regulated enough at all. Really, I don't think they are. They're not. They have far too much power, so they'll just jack up the prices to cover it. And I don't think they could introduce a windfall tax unless they find a way to make sure those energy companies don't hurt the customers. And these guys can say it doesn't. It's not really an issue for them. Boris doesn't pay rent where he lives. He doesn't have to pay bills there. He just lives there. He lives in number 11. It's just, I don't know. It's a bollocks, really.
the reason we can do that, Mr. Speaker, is because we have a strong and robust economy. I'm going to look at all measures in future to support our people, of course.
So you turn soon?
Of course I am. But the only reason we can do that, the only reason our companies are in such robust health is because of the decisions that this government has taken.
Mr. Speaker, still pretending the economy is booming, still got his head in the sand in the middle of an economic crisis.
Inflation would certainly lend credence to the argument that our economy is not doing so well. Oh, and the fact that our growth was not that good at all. In fact, the word recession might crop up again soon.
The Prime Minister keeps saying more help is coming, but we've heard it
from
all
Captain
before.
Planet.
May the 13th, he stood there and said, we will do more
Hey, Normie.
right now. A week has passed and there's been nothing. On April the 19th, he stood there and said, we will do more as soon as we can. A month has passed and still nothing. The Chancellor said, wait until the autumn. At least he's honest that the plan is to do nothing. But doesn't
honestly,
the Prime Minister
Spudgun,
realise
you're right.
that
Absolutely.
working people across the country can't afford to wait while he vacillates It's time to make his mind up.
I tend to agree because see, someone got it. There is no version of this where Boris is actually doing anything to help. He clearly isn't. If he was, he would be more vocal on the fact that hello, Darth Nix, I hope you're well. He would do more to address the fact that, inflation is going up, that there's going to be a recession, our growth isn't that good. Oh, but unemployment's going down. Yes, fantastic. I'm so happy that more people are back in work who are also going to have to claim welfare anyway because they can't afford to work or live on what they make from work. You div. Oh, and having excess jobs. Fantastic news. Really is. That's great news. Energy prices have gone through the roof, though. If someone was making... So let's say you're making living wage, whatever that is, £9 something. Let's say it's a tenner, right? Doing 40 hours a week. Oh, well done. You're making 400. You've got a bit of tax to pay on there, a bit of national insurance. Sure. Probably 350 is your wages. Let's go with that. And then you got your bills and your taxes and all that. How much you have as disposable income is going to go even lower. That's not right. You shouldn't be spending your life just to prop up other people with phenomenal bills that could have been managed better.
Tell you what's happened in the last month. We've got 300,000 more people off welfare and into work.
That's only because you changed the parameters for what is and is not okay for those who should and should not work. I.e., you made it so people who are severely disabled have to go to work, even if they clearly can't. Hello, God of the Dinosaurs, hope you're well.
On our way to work program, Mrs. Speaker.
And yes, Normie, absolutely. Labour's problems are no better, or Labour's.
Work, that those families, those people are £6,000 a year better off.
No, they're not. If they're better off, they'd be able to afford energy bills. They're losing phenomenal amounts to that, and that's not just energy. That's not just electric. That's gas. That's also fuel consumption if they drive a car. The bills have gone through the roof. Per litre right now is stupidly high. I remember when people were moaning when it hit £1, and that wasn't that long ago. Now it's what, 170? Come on. Don't take the piss out of people here, Boris.
It's by getting people into work that we fix the long-term problems of this economy. His answer, Mr. Speaker, his answer, in addition to putting up taxes, his answer is to borrow more. We heard it from the Shadow Chancellor this morning. She says she wants to borrow almost another £30 billion. That's what she says. Now, do you know what that means, Mr. Speaker?
You know what it already means? Adding to the fact that our debt interest is already quite high anyway, Boris. You know all about that. Our debt interest is even higher because you've been borrowing more as well.
It means more pressure on interest rates. It means pressure on mortgages. It means pressure on every family, every man, woman and child in this country, Mr. Speaker. That's Labour economic policy. That is why there's never been a Labour government that left office with unemployment lower than when it came in. And that's the reality.
That sounds like something that could be spun on the Conservatives, but I've never actually bothered to look. But for the sake of it, you've been in office for 12 years. Using comments like that is a load of bollocks at this point, isn't it? Also, they got voted out because of unemployment. You get voted out, and I'll say it again, because you betrayed the people, you fucking twat.
Mr. Speaker, on the day when inflation went to 9%, the highest for 40 years, I think the watching public, the least they can expect is a Prime Minister who concentrates on the cost of living crisis. Clearly, he just can't make his mind up. So let's have a look at who's for
181.
it and who's
Wow.
against it. On one side,
I'm glad I don't drive.
the chair of Tesco, the chair
that's
of John
just-
Lewis,
that's just insane.
the chair of the Treasury Select Committee, the chair of the Education Select Committee, Lord Haig, Lord Brown, the old CEO of BP, all support a windfall tax. Even the current boss of BP says it wouldn't discourage investment. And on the other side,
Now that is a very brave thing to hear them say.
the member for North East Somerset. When he's not sticking notes on people's desks like some overgrown prefect, is dead set against it. When is he finally going to get a grip, stand up for the people of Britain and get on the right side of the argument?
When he hasn't got a majority in Parliament that he can whip everyone into voting line.
Mr. Speaker, nothing could be more transparent from this exchange than their lust to raise taxes on business. Mr. Speaker, we don't relish it. We don't want to do it. We don't want to do it. Of course we don't want to do it. We believe in jobs and we believe in investment and we believe in growth. And as it happens, the oil companies concerned are on track to invest about £70 billion into our economy over the next few years. They're already taxed, Mr. Speaker, at a rate of 40%. Mr. Speaker, what we want to see is investment in the long-term energy provision of our country, which they've signally failed to do, by the way, cancelling our nuclear power investment. He talks of the people who are suffering from high energy prices in this country today, Mr. Speaker, have previous Labour governments to blame for that mistake. And
You've had 12 years to rectify that mistake, Boris. 12 years.
Of course, we will look at all sensible
And God of
measures,
Dinosaurs, yes,
but we will
I
be
know.
driven by
I know. And
considerations
yes,
of
Sunless
growth,
Wing Zero, he is definitely going to die on
investment
that
and
hill.
employment. And I just remind you,
Just
Mr.
hairpull
Speaker, that unemployment's now hit a record low, or for 50 years, I should say, and employment is now, I think, 500,000 people more now in paid employment, payroll employment, than there were before the pandemic began.
So he's on the side of excess profits for oil and gas companies. We're on the side of working people. And
There is a big difference here, because what Keir Starmer right now is doing, he is definitely appealing to the working class voter. 100%. Boris is not. Oh, but unemployment's down. No one cares. Because working class people, they like to work, yes, but they like to know the government has their back. Right? And Spudgun, problem is, Meg, we're done for because Johnson knows that the opposition are bloody useless, and dear God, Rees-Mogg acting like a boss. How dare he? I will admit, I do like Rees-Mogg. I have a bit of a bias with him. I think he's funny. What was I saying? Yeah, so Labour right now do look like they stand up for the vote, the regular person, the blue-collar worker. And that's not going to resonate very well with Conservatives, who look like they're only interested in maintaining their relationships with wealthy companies. It's always going to be that way. And Boris is losing support. He knows he is. So why is he still pushing with this, knowing it's not going to get him any support? Wasn't the high tax 30 years ago caused by Major and the EU? I actually don't know, Normie. But it sounds about right, since John Major can handily be blamed for us losing a considerable amount of our sway and power with the EU. Since Thatcher never gave them anything. In fact, she refused. I remember this woman is not for turning and all that.
there you have it. But he clearly doesn't like me pushing him on this. But the reason I keep coming back to this subject, and why it's so frustrating that he hasn't acted, is because so many people are living through this nightmare and they feel totally abandoned by their government. This week, I spoke to Phoenix Halliwell.
The Forks
a rare
option.
kidney condition means Phoenix has to do dialysis from home 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. for 5 days a week, just so he can take his daughter Rosie to school. His dialysis is life-saving, so he can't turn it off. So even though his wife, who's a midwife in the NHS, works extra shifts, during the winter they had to turn their central heating off, and Phoenix skips meals to make ends meet. But their energy bill has still doubled. Phoenix says he feels like he's being priced out of existence. And it's not just him. Millions of our disabled, elderly and vulnerable neighbours are at the sharp end of this crisis. They simply can't afford to live with dignity. The decisions we make here matter. The cost of indecision is enormous. People across the country need action now. The plans are already there. The Prime Minister, stop the delay. Work with us to put them in place. Do it for households that face bills they can't afford. And do it for Phoenix, who simply can't afford to wait.
So things are already tight for a lot of people. Dib told... Oh, did he? Time him out. Dib him. Dib his brains out. I didn't want to interrupt that because I thought it was a very serious point. And I think it's worth letting some things be told. In the context of Phoenix, they suffer plenty, quite frankly. And they do a lot and give up a lot and sacrifice a lot. And now they know it's going to be even worse for them because of what Boris says is actually going to be better for them. But then you can tell them, oh, but they're £6,000 better off. When the energy prices go up, that £6,000 is about to get a lot smaller. Also, it's predicated under the assumption they make an extra £6,000 in the first place. They don't. Things are already tight to begin with. So don't try us with that crap.
Mr. Speaker, I'd be grateful if you could send me the details of the sad case, because the NHS does cover the costs of those who are on dialysis, Mr. Speaker. But if you send me, and by the way, of course, they voted against the vital investment in the NHS that this country needs. And I just remind him in the House of the key point. None of this is possible. The investment in the NHS isn't possible. The 22 billion that we've already put in isn't possible. The further investment that we're going to put in isn't possible without the strong economy that this.
Does who have an electric car then normally? As far as I'm aware, Boris rides push bikes unless he's been driven around in a ministerial car. And Keir Starmer, I couldn't possibly say. I don't know.
50 years, Mr. Speaker, and this Queen's speech that we've been debating is about putting in the infrastructure,
I didn't actually watch that speech.
The technology.
I just felt sorry that Charles had to be one to do it.
For growth and jobs in this country, and that is what this government is committed to doing, and that is the best way out of economic problems. And I thought it was fantastic, by the way, yesterday to see Her Majesty the Queen open Crossrail. 72,000 jobs.
That would be the new Elizabeth line for the tube.
Has already delivered 90 billion it will produce for the whole of the UK economy. Well, let me...
I'll be honest, it won't when you take into account how much it's going to cost to run it. That electricity, though, am I right, people? Wow!
Just ask the right honourable gentleman, who was the Mayor of London when Crossrail was first starting to be built, Mr. Speaker, and who was the Prime Minister who completed it, Mr. Speaker? We get the big things done, Mr.
Yes, but what about the things that actually matter to the people, you div? The big things, you can flex and dabble all you like about the Elizabeth line, but quite frankly, the rest of the United Kingdom isn't London, you fucking melt. I don't give a shit about some shitty little tube. I care that the cost of electricity's gone through the roof to the point my sister and I are having to top it up twice a week, instead of once a week. It's doubled. That's not good news. Things are already quite expensive as it is. You're not doing anything to help us, so shut the fuck up. People already have less expendable income pre-COVID, soon there'll be more charity shops than actual retail shops. I fully agree with you, Branty. There's already enough of a strain on the Trussell Trust and food banks, so I fully agree with you.
Mr. Speaker, there's never been a Labour government...
Oh, shut up. He said robust, by the way, about 30 times. I'm going to skip ahead to the paper pervert, okay?
Football club, all the best in the final tonight in Seville. It's always a joy to see Scottish clubs get to the finals of European competition.
Even if it is in the B League, you know, the B team thing. Champions League is the main European tournament. Europa is not.
Mr. Speaker, people didn't need to see this morning's official statistics to know that we're experiencing the highest inflation in 40 years.
Yeah, I didn't need to see that. I knew it when it said 9%. It's not rocket science here, folks. That's not good. I can't wait for the first £1 million note to be made.
They know it because they're living with it. Families
Thank you, Darth
can't
Victor.
afford food. They can't pay their bills.
Also, based on the lines I take to get around London or to go through London to go places, I'll never be on the bloody Elizabeth line. No one cares. Okay?
And we're only at the beginning. And as always under the Tories, the poorest are punished the most. For months, people
Shake
have
your head,
been
he's
crying
right.
out for support. But month after month, a distracted Downing Street has failed to lift a finger to help. Does the Prime Minister still support his Chancellor's insulting statement that acting now in this cost of living emergency would just be silly?
So, what did he do? Well, Paper Pervert here is known for touching his ream in his hand a bit much. I think he's a paper sexual. He likes to cut his peen with the paper.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I support the Chancellor's work in lifting the living wage by a record amount, Mr. Speaker, by making sure people on universal credit pay £1,000 less in tax, by making sure that by putting another £22 billion into supporting people with the cost of living,
No, the way you support them with the cost of living is finding ways to reduce the cost of living, or perhaps fix the inflation issue that's going to make it even worse. Oh, but more people are in work. Yes. Twat.
9.1 billion already to help people with the cost of energy, and above all, I support what he has done to deliver a strong economic foundation which makes all that possible, Mr. Speaker.
My goodness, talk about an Aesop's fable. Every day this Prime Minister remains out of touch, people remain out of pocket. And by the way, Prime Minister, £20 a week was taken out of people's universal credit. You know, the Prime Minister's just confirmed he does think it would be silly to intervene, because the Tories' only response to this cost of living crisis has been insults and inaction. The Tory backbencher who thinks poor people, just need cooking lessons. The Tory...
I do think that this is going to push more people to some form of self-reliance. We have quite a large garden here, and I'm all in favour of making a raised bed or two and a little greenhouse perhaps. But it won't be enough to feed everyone. It would, from time to time, reduce the cost of it. That's it. Then I'm going to have to buy water and other bits and bobs. It's not actually cost effective, really, at this present moment anyway. But it is something that's going to happen, I think. More people are going to be pushed that way.
Prime Minister who thinks that people should just get a better paid job. And the Chancellor who thinks it would be silly to act now. This is the cost of living crisis from Westminster. For weeks, the Prime Minister has been briefing that it's
honestly, I'm surprised he hasn't faced one yet, Serene.
For blocking financial support for struggling families. Well, Prime Minister, it's time to stop sniping from the sidelines. If this Chancellor won't deliver an emergency budget, it's time for the Prime Minister to sack the Treasury, to sack the Chancellor, and to put somebody else in office that will act.
Prime Minister.
I mean, sack the Treasury, I think it's funnier. I don't need to hear Boris's answer, though, because this is silly. I am not bothering anymore. This is really a really bad performance by Boris. He's not had a good run of late. For quite some time, I might add. Learn how to pickle stuff. I don't like vinegar. No, I'm kidding. I don't mind pickle stuff. I'm just not overly fond of it. I do like a good chutney, though, Spud Gun. I also like jam, but I don't like excessive amounts of sugar, so that's not an option either. How about a beehive? I can make my own honey. It's certainly worth exploring. Okay, well, we are concluded with PMQs for the week of... Well, it's the 11th May. Oh, geez, I put the 11th there. It's meant to be 18th, isn't it? Div. Let's put that right. Let's change the date. It says 18th now. Sorry about that, folks. Fingers crossed we're back next week. We can continue with more of this absolute cancer. Thank you for joining. Thank you for smashing the like. I really appreciate the support. And I will see you all maybe on Friday here, actually, for a political recap. So, see you soon, everyone.